Hi guys, I hope you're good. In this video I will be blacking my boat, also hoping to solve the ongoing engine woes. I arrived at Uxbridge Boat Centre after a nightmare journey. If you haven't watched my last two videos, they explain all that went wrong and how I managed to get here with the help of some very kind people. As you can see, they're craning my boat out of the water. Most people will be feeling nervous now, but I'm perfectly chilled out. And imagine if they had dropped it. That would make a fantastic video. I take a look at the condition of my hull. It's just under 4 years since the boat was last out of the water for blacking. It looks pretty much as I had imagined it would. I start by jet washing off the algae and other canal crud. The jet wash is super powerful and lots of fun. It's a hot day, so it doesn't take long for the boat to dry, and then it's moved into the shed where it will stay for the duration of the work. I should have had a week to do the blacking, but because I arrived late, I only have 4 days, which means cracking on and no time for mucking around. I start by scraping off all the loose rust and bitumen. Every few years you need to take the boat out of the water and paint the hull, which is the underneath of the boat that sits in the water. And the reason you do this is to protect it from rust. Once I've scraped everything off, I apply the first coat of bitumen with a paintbrush, as recommended by the staff at the Boatyard. The bitumen was more runny than I was expecting, but it's an easy and enjoyable process. I pay particular attention to the water line and around my anodes, making sure I get into all the cracks and crevices. Sacrificial anodes are pieces of magnesium that are welded onto the hull. Magnesium will corrode before steel, protecting your hull. I'll need some of my anodes replaced whilst I'm out of the water. My boat is 48 foot long, and it took just under 3 hours to do the first coat. You need to leave 24 hours between coats and 48 hours between the last coat and going back into the water. I think it looks okay, especially as it's my first time doing this job. So onto the subject of my engine. For a long time now my boat has been overheating. I've broken down numerous times, had mechanic after mechanic out and spent a small fortune on repairs. Within seconds of Alan, the yard manager, looking in my engine bay, he found the fault. The way that my engine is cooled, there's a small tank on the top of the engine, and into there you pour your coolant, as so. And that coolant will be sent around the engine. Obviously, as the engine's running, it will start to get hot, and the coolant coming out of the little tank will also start to get hot. And if there's no way to control the temperature of that coolant, eventually it will die. So what you have to prevent that water from getting too hot is another larger tank called a skin tank. The skin tank is built into the steel of the main construction of your boat, and that's submerged in the canal or river water, keeping the steel cool, which in turn cools down the water in the skin tank. Hot water will come out of tank number 1, go into the skin tank, be cooled down by the canal water, and then send cool water back into the engine. This skin tank should be fitted on the side of the boat where the steel is thinner, and the coolness of the canal water can easily penetrate. For some reason, when my boat was constructed, the skin tank was fitted on the base plate that's at the bottom, where the steel is much thicker, meaning that the coolness of the canal water couldn't penetrate through that steel and wasn't able to cool down the water inside the skin tank. The hot water from the small tank was going into the skin tank. That wasn't cooling down, and it was sending hot water back into the engine. That's why I kept overheating. The solution is to fabricate and weld on a new skin tank on the side of the boat where it should have been all along. Once Alan started explaining things to me, everything just clicked into place. I had no problem taking the boat out on short trips, and even on my long 13-hour day, I was basically in tickover for most of the time. My problems all start on trips of more than an hour or so when I'm at higher revs. I would finally have a boat that I won't be scared of taking out. This is the inside of the new tank. The water will travel through that maze of pipes to be cooled down, and those 2 holes are for the hoses that will connect it to the rest of the system. The work meant I would have to stay out of the water for an extra week, but at least it took the pressure off of having to get the blacking done, and I could relax a little. They also replaced my batteries, and they checked my alternator, which was absolutely fine. Here's the finished tank. They have done a wonderful job. I also need to thank Kev from Bickerstaff Boats, because he was on the phone with me every day giving me advice and making sure that the Boatyard were looking after me, which they did, very much. With that done, I could get the second coat of blacking on. I'm using a roller for that. It's a bit difficult on the second coat to see which parts you've already painted. In terms of costs, I don't know how much they would have charged to do the blacking for me, but to get the boat craned out and back in again, that was £425. The use of the jet wash was £60, and the bitumen was just under £50 a tin, and I bought 2 tins. The second coat took less time than the first one, and again it was an easy job, and Alan gave me some tips on how to get a better finish. Once the second coat was done, I used the leftover bitumen to go over the waterline again. I'm so glad I made the trip to Uxbridge. I completely trust the staff here. They've been professional, helpful, good-humoured, and I even got to play with a lovely dog. What more could a girl want? I'm pleased with the results and leave it to dry for 48 hours. Unfortunately, the yard was struck with sudden staff shortages, so my relaunch had to be further delayed. But no worries, I'll use the time to have some campervan adventures. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye!